I used to do that with my calendar. This is one of my favorite frameworks actually.
Mm.
I started energy color coding my calendar in real time after the meetings, and it completely changed. I mean, this is like 6 months ago. Greg, it was actually as a result of a conversation I had with you about like how my calendar was too full. So I literally would like at the end of a day go to my calendar and color code things green when I felt like they created energy for me. Kind of like orange if it was neutral, and then red if it was like I felt drained after doing it. And it forced me to visually see how many of the things I was taking on during the week were draining energy from me. And so I basically just said, okay, I'm going to eliminate or delegate all of those. And that was the
Love it.
first step. And it was like, okay, now my calendar looks all green and neutral. And then the next step was like, what can you kind of trim out of the neutral and make it mostly green? And now I feel like my calendar is mostly green, and it completely repositioned it just by like having this visual cue and signal.
Dude, I love that. I've been trying for the past 2 years, like a week in review at the end of the week. So I have like a survey that I give myself on Google Forms, and you can kind of see trends
Hmm.
for like, was it for me? It's really related to AppSumo. It's like, was I consistent? How was my leadership? Did I move the business forward? And then the last thing is like, were there any blockers from this week or meetings that sucked that I want to adjust? And it really does make most of the weeks get subsequently better. I feel like feedback and like regular feedback and just in all aspects is how we improve life.
That's a pretty
So that
cool idea, actually, just like for a business. So you have like do you wear a Whoop band or like any of the
I
health
wear the Aura
tracker?
Ring at night when I go to sleep
Yes, me
with my
too.
teddy
So
bear.
like the beauty of those things is that it gives you like a trend line over time, right? Like you can
Yes.
see what it looks like, what your different metrics, REM sleep, whatever, over longer periods, it becomes really interesting.
Mhm.
Um, it's kind of a cool idea to like take something and apply that to your kind of personal productivity, energy, etc. Like what you're jerry rigging, and like jankily putting together with a Google form or with a Google survey and sending to yourself. There's probably a business to just be built around that, like the personal energy survey or something, where you create a nice UI UX and basically overlay it on top of data that is effectively a Google form that you get every week.
Dude, I love that. I I I think that's great.
Here's the idea.
Because sometimes with these things, like we get baseline information, and we're like, okay, if I go to sleep early, it's good. If I don't drink, it's good. It's like there's not really that much deltas of change. It's more just like some level of baseline to move forward. So I think it's just like how do you get more consistent iterations and improvement?
I think
So
I
I think
think
it
the
worked.
idea is like, have you seen those emails where at the bottom of the email it's like, hey, like
Yeah,
how was this good, bad, okay?
yeah.
And so it's basically after the meeting, you get an email. It starts like getting data points. Was it good, bad, whatever, and it starts adding those data points until it knows enough about you that it's just like, hey, you have a meeting coming up in an hour with Sahil, and you like hate meeting with Sahil, or so we're gonna go ahead and like cancel that, or you love meeting with Sahil. We're gonna
When you're
like,
going to schedule it, it tells you to cancel it actually, or
yeah,
just like, "Don't schedule this because we already know." I actually think there's something really interesting to be built, like a simple tool around this, because like, they all exist. There's like a massive multi-billion dollar industry around like app tracking stuff on your computer or on your phone that like tells you there's something called like Rise Productivity, I think it's called, that's like a computer app that like yeah, actually, I got it on AppSumo, Noah. It was like one of your deals of the week, at one point, like last year, and, it like tells you it
Mm.
gives you all these metrics and data at the end of every week of like what apps you spent your time on, where you were productive, where you got drained, etc. But doing that, but for like your personal energy and sort of like using it as like a week in review type template that gives you data behind all of that. And maybe it's self-reported, but it's still, actual data that tracks over time, and putting a UI UX on top of it. I feel like it would actually be pretty productive. Kind of like it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Uh, so Well, I want to come back to that actually because there's something interesting to be built there. So we will talk about that.